And I used to think that religion focused on the family because it wished to create a clear channel for indoctrination of the children. And that's certainly part of it. But I also really think, without proof, it's just a thought, but I really think that religion is how social stability replicates itself. Religion is how the wild sexuality of short-term reproductive strategies is restrained and reined in and turned towards that which benefits the children. The safest place for women is in a stable long-term marriage. The safest place for children is in a stable long-term marriage. And the way to shrink the power of the state is to promote stability in long-term marriages. And to my knowledge, nothing does that better than the church.
You married into a religious family without dealing with these issues, and you remain cordial with people who are irrational culty mystics, right? Which is Christianity, right? Let's stop pretending that it's some sort of edifice of Western civilization. It's simply an extraordinarily successful cult, and we know what makes a cult extraordinarily successful is not an excess of rationality and logic and real kindness, not do-nicery.
And the values which are promoted through Christianity, I support those values, a lot of them, a lot of them. There's a lot of focus on kids, a lot of focus on sacrifice. Religious people are twice as likely to give to charity, significantly more likely to volunteer. You know, Christians are willing to give 10% or more of their income to their church. I'm out here on the internet begging for scraps. There is nobility and power and reason because of the Greek tradition, the Roman tradition, St. Augustine tradition. There is reason and philosophy in the heart of the church. This changes nothing of the metaphysics, nothing of the arguments I've made in the past. But as I've gotten older, which is usually what people say before they spout the most inane bullshit. As I've gotten older, I really understand that. And that's not an argument, and I'm fully aware that I'm not making an argument when I say that, but I'm going to say it anyway, because sometimes it's appropriate. As I've gotten older, I've realized that to loose the hearts of men and women from religion prior to a renaissance in philosophy does create a power vacuum that is filled by the worst devils of human possibility. History is so obvious to that I'm embarrassed to have missed it for so long, but you can't get rid of that heroin without some strong methadone, to use a strange way of putting it. But philosophy is still decades away from any kind of significant renaissance in the mind and hearts of mankind.
You can see video footage of this Children of God cult where the children are singing and laughing and clapping and playing and so on. And they all look like they're having a nice time, and the Amish will all help each other put up each other's bonds, and they all bring round pies when you get sick, and they're all very nice people, and they're all deeply and corruptly and morally insane. They're not nice people. They're not nice people. They're passive-aggressive people, and that's what the niceness comes from. The niceness is a form of conformity and camouflage. Christina's parents absolutely wanted to help us move. We're generous at our wedding. Help, help, help. That's what they want to do. But they're not nice people. It's all for them. It's all for the fantasy of virtue, not the reality of virtue. And really, my friends, my brothers and sisters, how on earth could it ever be otherwise? Are we so indifferent to the essence of philosophy that we can, with a straight face, say that virtue can be achieved either through rationality and integrity to what is, or equally as valid a path to virtue and integrity is mad, conformist fantasy to bloodthirsty doctrines. Right? Do philosophers really say, philosophers who are interested in the moral instruction of mankind in a positive and pleasant way, we hope, do they really say, well, you have one of two choices? You can either pursue rationality and check your thoughts and values and opinions against reality and work for and only sort of enact and believe in moral principles that are universal and reversible and all these kinds of things. Or you can simply read a book that's a couple of thousand years old, with rape, incest, murder, torture, pedophilia, all of that advocated in it, and simply conform to whatever other people tell you, and never check any of your premises against reality, but be a blind conformist to irrational and brutal texts. Would that be a sane proposition to make in any way, shape, or form?
Who's nicer, atheists or Christians? Sorry to interrupt, but this is an important question. I literally wrote this down today because I prepare for these calls. It's not all off the cuff. I wrote this down, line down the middle of the page. People I know who are religious. People I know who are atheists. Who's nicer? Who are the people you trust more? Who are the people you feel more secure with? Who are the people you've seen really stand up for their values? Who are the people who are really committed to their virtues? Who are the nicest people you know? Atheists or Christians?
And so let's have a look for this mythical, nice and moral and good and virtuous Christian. This is the mythical beast that I would like to sort of blow out of the fable books, or blow into the fable books and out of people's minds as a real creature. So the woman that I went out with when I was younger, she gave up a man she loved and respected and treasured, because he would not allow the children to be taught things that he knew and was able to prove were false, right? We had discussions about religion, and she wasn't able, of course, to overturn. And it's not because I was such a brilliant debater, it's just because it's so easy to turn God into fiction that that's why that's exactly why she wanted them when they were young. Because she knew for a fact that if they weren't programmed in Christianity when they were young, if the cult doesn't get its fangs into the brains of the kids, then it dies. I mean, it's perfectly aware of that, right? With the scar tissue of the children's minds, the scar tissue that forms around the children's minds are the eggs through which religion grows. I mean, that's what they have to sit on and hatch, right? And so she knew that if they didn't get this when they were young, so, she was a very nice woman, right? She would make me lunch, she was thoughtful, she was kind, and she gave up a man she loved in order to retain the right to tell her children things she knew were false, right? She was at she was a very intelligent woman, very well educated, and of course this is partly what caused all of these problems for her. This is a massive contradiction. So, was this a moral woman? No, of course not. Of course not. Far from moral, complete opposite of moral. The niceness was a camouflage, people. The niceness is a camouflage. And that's just a very important thing to understand. If you really want to get the life by the horns and get into the truth of things, as somebody has as their tagline on the boards, the first step of wisdom is to call things by their proper names. People who are nice and who wish to mold the minds of innocent children with destructive lies are not really very nice. People who instruct children on how to drink the blood of a fictitious god or go to hell, no matter how sweetly and how nicely and how many coloring books are involved and how many pleasant Christian camp sing-alongs are involved, are stone corrupt. Are broken souls seeking only to eat the integrity and innocence of the young. They're not nice people.
In what is good for children, I have almost infinitely more in common with the Christians than I do with the secular left.
So there are no nice Christians. There are no nice religious people. There are people who look nice because they do nice things and they conform with people and they fit nicely and they dress well and they drive cars and they give to charity and so on. These are not nice people. First and foremost, they have never examined their premises because they're afraid to and they know that they're false. That's the hostility you get from Christians when you begin to question the premises, is because they know that what they're talking about is completely false. So intellectual cowards of the first order, slavishly conformist people. Slavishly conformist people. Christians cannot think for themselves in any fundamental philosophical sense, in any way, shape, or form. Completely and totally conformist. And if you believe that that's a virtue, then great. Then I'm evil, right? Or then you should stop listening to my podcast for sure.
I don't know a place that focuses on virtue, truth, honor, dignity, restraint, self-discipline, community, integrity, more than a Christian church.
Well, surely one of the definitions of nice would be to reject a group that bases its beliefs on a book that demands the murder of unbelievers. You know, I'm not going to let that go. That's really fundamental. And don't blame me. I didn't write the goddamn bullshit. Don't get mad at me for the fact that there's this sick book out there that people worship and sentimentalize into fluffy lambs and nice people. Rather than saying to me, my in-laws are nice, you can do the following. Sit down with your in-laws and say, hey, you know, one of the things I've noticed about the Bible is that it kind of suggests that people should be killed. It more than suggests, it demands, it commands that people should be killed. It also says that Christians should not associate with non-Christians. They should not even break bread with them. They should not say anything to them whatsoever. And if that's true, is that something I should do? And if they say, no, it's not true, then they say, okay, well, how do you know what is valid and what is not valid within the Bible? Like, is it just a matter of opinion? Do you just cherry pick? Or, you know, how do we know, right? Because in the past they believed that this was true and they did kill lots of people. And, you know, currently the Muslims do kill lots of people based on this sort of text within the Old Testament and in the Quran. So how do we know, right? And if they're genuinely nice, they'll say, well, that's a fascinating question. Here's what we've worked out. Right, here's how we know what is right and what is wrong and what is true and what is false in the Bible. Here's the methodology by which we've been able to determine what is metaphorical and what is valid. Right? And I guarantee you they have not worked out such a methodology. Of course they haven't, because it's impossible.
And I think that you would not believe, Scott, you would not believe how many religious fans of this show there are. And their focus on, and this is another thing that had me thinking about this third way, is that the religious fans of this show seem to specifically appreciate the actionable ethics. And especially around the parenting. Here's something you can do that will make the world a better place that is not incompatible with your religious values, which allow you to have deeper conversations about what is really meaningful to you with people, with your children in particular.